Imagine scuba diving down into a cold, dark, murky cave. As you gradually descend down to the bottom, it slowly starts to get darker and darker. You reach about 100 feet in depth and approach an eerie yet beautiful toxic hydrogen sulfide layer. Now imagine having to take your air supply out of your mouth and swim down into this layer of hydrogen sulfide. Now once you're in the layer, you lose sight of everything. It's just you and your thoughts. This is something that me and my friends recently got to experience, and it was honestly one of the most unique feelings I've ever experienced in my life. A combination of stillness and beauty, but at the same time fear, knowing that if anything goes wrong, I won't be able to take that next breath. An experience that truly took me out of my comfort zone and challenged me like never before. So let's take it back to the beginning. This is my friend Josiah. He had this idea for a short film, a film that would entirely be held underwater, and what better place to be underwater than Tulum? With some of the most unique underwater caves in the world, Tulum is famous for these types of dives. Josiah invited me, my girlfriend Chelsea, an already experienced and avid freediver, and Sasha, a good friend of ours who came along to help with the project. As we arrived at Tulum, we started our trip with a freediving course. This course was vital for our performance underwater, learning breathing techniques and how the human body works to hold as much oxygen in the lungs as possible. We learned all the key elements to enhance our bodies to hold our breath longer, dive as efficiently as possible, and to be able to maintain a calm and collected mind when sometimes your body is doing the complete opposite. I learned a lot this week, and I was able to physically and mentally push myself in ways I never have before. Josiah and I managed to freedive to a depth of 27 meters or 88 feet, just a few meters short of Chelsea, who managed to dive down to 30 meters or 98 feet with ease. After 5 days of freedive training, we felt ready and prepared to take on this next week of filming. During this week, I learned a lot more about Josiah's story and his relationship with water. I love Josiah's vision and his commitment to making this far-fetched idea of filming an entire short film underwater come to life. After 5 days of freedive training, we felt ready and prepared to take on this next week of filming.
What's up?
But in order for this whole project to even be possible, we needed to get some experts involved. This is Angel and Cami, two professional scuba divers and instructors that have done more diving than anyone I've ever met.
I love water, and the cenotes for me was the best change of life from Mexico City to move here.
Yeah.
I feel like once I knew the cenotes, I feel like, okay, I need to be in the water every day.
And you have like, how many dives in the past year and a half have you done?
Like over 800.
Wow.
Maybe in total 4,000 dives.
Oh my gosh.
That is insane.
And this is Cami,
Cami.
my sister from another mission.
Yes.
Cami and Angel would essentially be our lifelines for this project, making sure that everything goes as planned, to assist us and to help us if anything was to go wrong. They are experts at what they do and perfect for the project up ahead. So this was the plan. Most of the shoot would take place in Cenote X. What makes this cenote so unique is its dense layer of hydrogen sulfide that resembles a cloud. The only problem is that it sits around 100 feet down below the surface, which would be too deep for us to free dive down to and film at, so scuba diving is the only option. Chelsea, Josiah, and I would scuba dive down to the bottom alongside Cami and Angel with our scuba gear on. As we approach the bottom, Chelsea and I would have to start to take off our scuba gear and hand it over to our assigned safety diver. As we hand over our tanks and fins, we would have to remove our own mouthpiece and breathe off of the safety diver's reserve line. This is a separate air supply that every scuba diver must have in case of an emergency or malfunction on their main air supply. Now, the way that scuba diving works is the deeper you go, the longer you need to take on your way back up. Now, because of this, that meant we would only have a maximum of 15 minutes at the bottom of the cenote per day, leaving us with just enough air to make it back up safely. Because of the depth that we're diving to, we would only be able to dive once every 24 hours, making this project even more of a challenge. With so little time to film, communication would have to be quick and to the point. The only problem is it's very difficult to communicate underwater. So Josiah had devised hand signals for every shot that we would have to memorize before going down.
Yeah, so we got boom.
Together on the log, holding hands.
Yep, looking at each other.
I grab his hand, I leave the log.
We have just be on the log. Yep.
Starting, looking up.
looking down first, because this is right after Chelsea goes. This is a wider shot.
Okay.
The next shot is
Same thing with close up.
close up. You start looking over my shoulder.
After executing our 15 minutes at the bottom, Angel and Cami would signal for us to start going up. Then we would gradually work our way back up to the surface, making the necessary safety stops on the way up. So we just completed our test dive, and I'm in awe right now. I couldn't believe my eyes. I was so mesmerized. After a successful test dive, we were finally ready to take on our first day of shooting. With a plan of attack, we woke up early the next morning and headed out to the cenote. So it's the start of day 2. We are getting ready for our second dive. It's crazy how much work we're putting in each day just to be able to shoot for 10 to 15 minutes. It's cold. We're all a little bit uncomfortable. Once we're in the water, once we're at the bottom, the adrenaline starts pumping and shit gets real. So excited for this. This is gonna be fun. How do you feel?
I'm pretty ready. It sucks because it's like you shoot 10 minutes each day. So it's like I shot 10 minutes yesterday, and the whole day, all I could think about was like my next 10 minutes that I get the next day. So it's like...
Now, for the first 3 days of the shoot, only Chelsea would be in front of the camera, as she had a much larger role in the film than I did. So I was just coming along to capture behind-the-scenes photos of the shoot. Honestly, I wasn't mad about this because that meant since I'm not in front of the camera, I was able to wear my wetsuit and not have to freeze. Whereas Chelsea only had a wetsuit for her upper body, and at the bottom, it can get really cold really fast. As soon as we got to the cloud layer, we didn't waste a second and got straight to filming. I gotta say, it was pretty surreal watching Chelsea in her element as she swam so gracefully through the cloud layer. About 10 minutes in, I could tell that things were going much slower than expected. Josiah had to reshoot the same shot 3 times, and that didn't leave him with enough time to capture the next shot. Angel flashed his light and signaled that we needed to start heading up now. As we began our ascent back to the surface, I started to worry that this project would actually require much more time than we had originally anticipated.
How was that?
That was cold and fast.
Did you guys run through all the shots?
Like half the time. Whoa. It goes so fast when you're down there.
Apparently we were at the bottom for about 18 minutes, but it went by so quick, didn't feel like 18 minutes at all. And Josiah was planning on getting 6 shots, but I think he only managed to get maybe 2, realistically. So I think we're gonna have to return here a bunch more.
So how many days do you guys have to execute this? We have 10 days total. 7 days at this particular spot. And we're probably gonna need every second of those 7 days.
As we drove back home from our first dive, we could definitely start to feel the pressure. Chelsea and I only had 10 days left in Tulum before we had to fly out, and Josiah had put months of planning into this project. To be honest, in my mind, it was too much for us to execute all in a matter of 10 days. But all we could really do at this point was try. This time, as we reached the sulfide layer, everything went by surprisingly quick. Right away, Chelsea had her scuba gear off and was in position. I could see Chelsea and Josiah tapped into flow state, going through each and every shot just as planned. Just as Josiah wrapped the last shot of the day, Cami signaled that it was time to go back up. We all did a little celebratory dance. It felt so good knowing that we were back on track and that completing this project in 10 days was now a realistic goal. From there, it seemed to be smooth sailing. The next 2 days, Josiah had captured all the solo shots he needed of Chelsea just as planned. And now it was time for the 2 of us to be in front of camera. That day was my first time actually taking the mouthpiece out of my mouth at that depth and leave my safety diver. It's hard for me to describe the feeling. At this point, my life really is in the hands of another person, and I just had to be okay with that. I mean, worst case scenario, I could swim 100 feet back up to the top, but having breathed compressed air at this depth, there could be some serious health risks and potentially even death by doing so. So really, Angel was my only option. It made me feel really safe that Angel was always there, ready to give me air every time I was reaching the end of my breath hold. Things were going great, and we managed to get all the shots we needed for the day. On our way back up, I started to shiver. It's really cold down there when you're not wearing a full wetsuit, like really cold. And the journey back up is the longest part. The next few days went smooth and just as planned. Chelsea even managed to surprise me with a birthday message underwater. It was honestly such a special moment for me, and I love this girl so much. With the shots we needed from Cenote X completed, it was time to change locations. Now, Josiah and Chelsea had been to this other cenote before. They wanted to shoot here because of the insane light ray that shoots down all the way to the bottom. The plan was for Josiah, Cami, and Angel to scuba dive down and film from the outer edge of the cenote as Chelsea and I would free dive. Now, we needed some way to communicate between us and Josiah, so we brought along Matt. Matt is a very experienced freediver, and we would use him to freedive down to Josiah after Chelsea and I had surfaced, so Josiah could communicate with him via hand signal as to what he wanted us to do for the next shot. Matt would then swim back up and relay that message to Chelsea and I so that we would know what to do the next time we swam down. This was honestly a pretty elaborate system we had created. But about 10 minutes into shooting in the new location, the clouds started to roll in. You know, every time the sun is about to peek through, we'd have Chelsea go down, and then hopefully, you know, as she's down there, the sun would poke through the clouds and then we get some light rays. But a lot of the time what's been happening is we'll think that there's an opening, Chelsea will dive down, and then the clouds don't move in the way that we think they're gonna move.
We got another patch coming up soon.
Okay.
So, yeah, we got maybe 30 seconds.
Although our shooting time was cut down because of the clouds and we would now have to come back to capture the last of the shots, Josiah did manage to get some absolutely incredible stuff.
Today, I woke up and I have an ear infection. I'm really assuming that I'm not going to be able to dive today though, which is going to be really terrible.
On our third last day of shooting, both Josiah and I somehow managed to get ear infections.
So congested.
And when you get an ear infection, you can't equalize underwater. And when you can't equalize, there's no way you can dive.
Yeah? Hell yeah.
Woo! Oh yeah.
But thankfully, Josiah was still able to equalize. Unfortunately for me, there was simply no possible way I could get into the water with the amount of pain I was experiencing in my ear. I remember expressing to Josiah that I really didn't think it was possible for me to shoot that day. But in the back of my mind, I honestly thought I was done for the rest of the trip. I felt defeated. I didn't want to be the reason this entire project would crumble to the ground. We had to figure out a solution. Maybe we could find someone to replace me for the wide shots? But how could we find someone that looks similar to me and can also free dive with only a few days left?
What happened today?
So today, Sam wasn't able to come. He's having a major ear infection, and this particular cenote, we have to rent it out, and we have it rented for today, so we didn't really have an option but to come. So Sam couldn't come. We're gonna have Sasha, Sam's stunt double for the day. So they have the same body type, so from further away it should be fine.
So if you pay really close attention to the final film, you can see that Sasha actually replaced me for some of the shots. We honestly couldn't believe how lucky we had been to have Sasha there to fill in for me. The next day, I made a miraculous recovery. A combination of antibiotic eardrops and a full day of sleep really did the trick, and that allowed me to go out and dive for the final scenes Josiah needed to wrap the film. We woke up extra early the next morning to get to the bottom before any other scuba divers. We needed to be 100% focused as this was our last dive of the trip and we really couldn't afford to run into any issues. But of course, about 2 minutes after we submerged, a group of divers appeared out of nowhere and were rushing to get down to the bottom of the cenote. This would be tragic as they could completely compromise our last 15 minutes at the bottom. Thankfully, Sasha was there to help stall.
I don't want to say anything, guys, but I have bull sharks later on. It's not like it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And she needs to get back to do her hotel stuff.
Yeah, so it's about 9 more minutes. Is the alligator always in the cenote, or do you know?
I don't know where to get to because I do not see a place we can.
Thanks for waiting.
To go.
I really hope they just stay out of the shot.
Just as we were wrapping up the final shot, we could see the other divers coming down. We were all ecstatic.
Dude, you crushed it. Yeah.
Fucking Gracie.
Crushed it. Got everything. Yeah.
The final shot was a success. Josiah had captured the very last shots needed to wrap the film. We spent the last 30 minutes slowly ascending to the top, reflecting on the past 10 days and how much work went into making this idea come to life. It had been such a roller coaster of a journey to make it to this point. From the physically demanding freediving, the early mornings and the late nights, the freezing cold waters and the long drives, it was a project we had poured everything we had into and we had finally wrapped the shoot. For us, this project wasn't just a film. It was an experience that pushed us not just as individuals but as a team, and reminded us of the beauty that lives just outside our comfort zones. This is the story of Angelita.
Let's get to filming because these beams looking saucy.
Yeah.